everybody. Welcome to Pop Jedi. I'm, of course, Rob DiLauro, aka Michael Myers, and with me, as always, is Miss Laurie Strode. Elusively running away from me for many years is Miss JennaSayWhat, though. Jenna, what is going on?
Not too much, Rob. What's going on with you?
Well, we got some news here. We want to thank you all for your continued love and support when it comes to the show. We have had 70 subscribers in the past 3 days.
Thank you.
70 subscribers in the past 3 days. If you guys don't have a YouTube channel, you're not a content creator, you will not understand how hard it is to get people to subscribe. So whatever we're doing is working. So thank you so much for your continued love and support.
We love you guys. Thank you.
Absolutely. We actually just did our Scream episode in honor of the 25th anniversary that's coming up in December. We just felt it was the right time with the trailer coming out, and there's tons of Scream content happening right now. So it was just perfect timing. You can go check that out right now. And don't forget to subscribe, just like everybody else has. It definitely helps us get out to more people, helps the algorithm. So with that, we're going to get to Top Jedi, which is actually the news for the week. It was a little short-handed this week, but there's some good stuff that came out. So, Laurie, what is going on in Top Jedi this week?
So my Top Jedi is, oh boy, am I excited for this one. It has nothing to do with the fact that I am obsessed with the comics and cosplayed as death, but we got some Sandman news. So there's the teaser that has just dropped. Oh my God, I'm freaking out. Everything is so similar to the comics. It screams Sandman. And we also have Gwendolyn Christie as Lucifer, and her photo just dropped, and I am freaking out. She looks so ethereal, and it makes my heart sing. This comic means so much to me, and I'm excited. I'm completely beside myself. She looks incredible. And going into the comic books, I mean, it was a male figure, but I mean, Gwendolyn Christie, you can't go wrong with her. I mean, she's incredible. She's an incredible actress, and I have no doubts.
So next in Top Jedi news, the Ghostbusters Afterlife trailer just dropped. The international trailer, which showed us a little bit more when it comes to the actual storyline and where they're going with it. I got to tell you, I was not initially on board with Ghostbusters Afterlife until this trailer, because I really just got to dissect it, and I noticed that Gozer was in it, and I noticed all these different things. You know, the backstory with Egon. You know, it looks awesome. I'm really, really excited for this now.
I'm
really excited for this now.
I got full body chills. Growing up, I loved Ghostbusters. I was a huge Ghostbusters fan growing up. I had like the play set. It was my favorite play set. Like my Barbies could just like go off to the side. I really didn't care about them, but my Ghostbusters play set, I was like very emotionally attached to. So like watching this trailer gave me full body chills. I have absolutely and had absolutely no doubt that they were going to nail this and hit it completely out of the ballpark. And I still stand by that.
Well, I should be excited about this trailer because this was actually the only VHS that we had in Smith Grove Sanitarium was Ghostbusters. That was the only movie that the patients were allowed to watch.
In more Top Jedi news, we have Eternals news. So they have some first reactions. It seems like it's spinning more on the direction of a really positive side of things. So people are calling it a masterpiece, epic, spectacularly weird, rich with some bittersweetness. So I'm gonna hold on to that one because I love the casting choices. Some people are saying it's a convoluted mess, but most people are saying how beautifully shot it is, how epic it is, and I'm here for it. I think that it's going to be a great film. Again, this is just kind of like the fans' reactions, so you've got to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. Everybody's different, so you'll have to see it for yourself in order to decide. But so far, it seems.
I don't mean to cut you off. I have something in my eye. Little bit of coat hanger. Do you remember that shit, Laurie? Do you remember doing that to me?
You deserve that. It's what you deserved.
You know what? I am really, really excited for the Eternals, especially with the actual post-credit scenes that they're talking about right now. that say they're, it's pretty much going to change the game of Marvel once again. Laurie, what is going on next in Top Jedi this week?
Well, next up is my another one of my close to my heart type shows, but Good Omens 2 just started filming, and I am freaking out because not only did Michael Sheen post a photo of his hair getting bleached, but also a shot from like about here up of his hair. And David Tennant did the exact same thing. So like the hype is real for me. There is just, I'm so excited to see what they do with this, because we kind of were left, it could have been its own standalone show for the first season, but you know what? I'm so glad that they're back, because David Tennant and Michael Sheen are incredible together. And we are speculating that it might be coming out end of 2022, end of 2023. So, I mean, I'm okay with waiting, because, sometimes you have to wait for really good things, and Good Omens is one of those good things. So I'm so stoked about it, and I'm ready for it.
So finally, in Top Jedi news, which brings us to our topic, Halloween Kills. Despite how people are feeling about it, how they hate it, how they love it, the horror fans are coming out in droves. They're seeing it first and a second time, and Halloween Kills is just making a killing at the box office. Jesus, killing. Every time somebody says killing, I got to do that. So, but yeah, it actually earned over $50 million during the weekend. It's doing amazing. And that's what we're going to talk about this. So there's really not a lot of, stuff to really get into, because if you guys stick around, if you haven't noticed, the topic of the show is Halloween Kills.
What? Oh no, I was vastly unprepared. I thought that we were going to do something totally different.
So let's just clear the air before we start our topic. Laurie, I just want to let you know that, you were scared, and I apologize. But, honestly, all this time, since 1978, all I've been trying to do was get us together and do a show with you. And the fact that we get to do this now, really means a lot. So thank you oh, Jesus, I'm sorry. I just can't, your face is just, all right, the knife's going away. All right. But thank you very much for finally doing this show.
I can close this out. It's fine.
So a little bit of backstory before we get into this. So Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 had come out. The sequel wasn't as successful as Rob Zombie's Halloween, the first one. But of course, Dimension wanted to continue, putting out these, Halloween films, of course, after, Rob Zombie's was, pretty much like, dominating, certain aspects of the box office for many, many years. He actually just got knocked off his pedestal not too long ago, believe it or not, when it comes to Labor Day box office. So they crafted all these different ideas, and all these different directors were supposed to be attached to it. I think the one thing that really bums me out, as much as I like the characters of Karen and Allison Strode, Danielle Harris's character from Halloween 4 and 5, Jamie Lloyd, was actually written into the story. And I guess they had decided at the last minute to pull her out, which really bummed out Danielle, because Danielle's been, vying for a spot in these movies for a while now. David Gordon Green and Danny McBride, when they were asked to do the film, actually through an infamous email that Jamie Lee had actually addressed during the Beyond Fest, I think it was, where David Gordon Green was asked to do the movie, and he was just like, yes, awesome. You know what I mean? He was just very excited about it. But he wanted to bring something to it that was a little bit different than everybody else. He wanted to actually honor John Carpenter, which to me, that means so much. The fact that John Carpenter, gets to make some decisions on this movie, and they don't really make any moves without him. So Halloween 2018 is actually celebrating a birthday today as we speak. So we're going to be talking about Halloween Kills, which I don't know if you guys have lived under a rock. It's the direct continuation of Halloween 2018. I've seen it 3 times already. Jenna actually got to see it the right way. She went to the theatrical experience, which is the way to do it. And I can't wait to do it myself. But I mean, Jenna, what were your thoughts on Halloween Kills? 'Cause I know you texted me that night and you were like, OMG, like, oh my God. And we talked about it.
Yep.
You were pretty excited about it. So what did you
I
think?
was like, I thought that this was such a good like continuation of the series.
Mhm.
I think that it did it really, I think it did it justice. And I know that there's a lot of naysayers out there. And I mean, for me personally, a huge fan of Halloween ever since the beginning.
Mhm.
I mean, I love this.
You know, we're going to get into the whys, you know, why we think people didn't care for it, you know, because there was, you know, a few horror fans that didn't really like this movie or didn't like this particular chapter. But you know, again, like you were saying, you know, with the kills and the shocks and the thrills and, you know, just that cliffhanger ending, like this is a penultimate episode. This is what this is supposed to be. It's not over. You know what I mean? Like this is kind of like the Empire Strikes Back of the Halloween franchise. You know what I mean? Very bleak. You don't know what's happening. You know, we're just seeing Michael, you know, basically in God mode at this point. You know, just rampaging all over the streets.
Yep.
You know, and you know, we won't get into the shocker until the end, but yeah, this is a penultimate episode. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
when Halloween ends, you know, when Halloween ends comes, you know, like into focus, I think David Gordon Green and McBride as writers and Gordon Green as a director, I think they're both super talented enough to be able to tie together those pieces that maybe people didn't care about, or you know, or maybe didn't really focus on those pieces yet. Like the puzzle is unfinished. Like that's why I don't understand why people are getting up in arms about this. It's not over.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't the Rise of Skywalker. It's not
Yeah,
done.
I have no idea why people are getting like, well, I know both of us kind of have an idea as to why, but yeah, it's just, you know what, just sit back and enjoy it. Like
Mhm.
we're so tied up in our own lives. Like let's just enjoy the moment while we have it, because like, man, we need that escape from reality right now.
Let's talk about the positives because we do have quite a few of them. And then we'll, of course, you know, we'll get into the summary. So we just want to let you guys know from the very beginning. We will let you know when we start talking about the film, because it is a new release. If you have not seen it, go to see it theatrically. That's the way to do it. Or you can watch it on Peacock streaming if you're actually a subscriber on Peacock. But we're going to spoil the hell out of this. So we'll let you know when it's actually going to happen. Go watch the movie, come back, and you know, see what we say about it. And I hope you enjoy it because, you know, like I've connected with quite a few people that said they loved it more than people that say they hated it. You know what I mean?
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we're all part of our little group now, like our little divisive group or whatever, you know, good or bad. But that's, you know, it's just the way of the world. Everybody, you know, has to pick a side for some reason, you know? So let me ask you this, you know, like, what are your thoughts on, you know, like Laurie Strode's journey at this particular point in time? It's pretty bleak. It's
Yeah.
pretty bleak.
Yeah. I mean, it was really hard to like to watch her, you know, like be so, like, I don't want to say useless, but you could tell that she felt useless. She was like, no, I have to fight. And she's like getting up, popping out stitches. Like
Yeah.
she just had surgery. Girl, what are you doing? And she's like screaming at the nurse to get her out so she can pop herself filled with painkillers so she can like fight. She is a fighter. So it was really
Yeah.
hard to see her in a position where she felt so like
Hopeless. Yeah.
helpless. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it broke my heart because like Laurie to me is such a powerhouse character.
Mhm.
So, you know, I felt like heartbroken for her because she was also kept out of the loop in a lot of things too.
And actually, you know, the situation that's going on in Haddonfield right now, it feels like, I don't know, I hate to use you know, Ghostbusters 2 as an analysis. You know, but with the purple slime going on in the sewers and stuff, and people, you know, were going nuts and, you know, like getting mad and angry and, you know, fighting and all that stuff. I'm really hoping that there isn't like some sort of kumbaya moment you know, in Halloween Ends, where everybody's just like, oh, we just have to show love for each other, and then, you know, the evil, you know, will subside or whatever. I don't want that. I don't want that. But there's definitely something going on within this town. He is being triggered by and powered by, like a battery, all this hatred and trauma and everything that he caused in the past 40 years in this town. You know what I mean? Like, that's the
just
thing.
Illinois, though. As an Illinois native, that's just Illinois.
So let's get into the actual story here. So it just basically like leaves off where it, you know, or excuse me, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So basically it just starts off where it ended. You know, like the Strode women are on a truck, and, you know, they see the firemen, like, you know, pulling up to the house, and they're screaming, let it burn, let it burn. And that really struck me, that scene, just them screaming. Because you're like, no, what are you doing? Yeah.
Big same. Like, whenever she was screaming it, I felt myself being like, yes, let it burn. Like, yeah, I felt that same emotion. Like, I felt like, yes, just let it burn. And at that point, like, I'm also realizing in the back of my head, I'm like, oh yeah, it's the beginning of the film. Ooh,
yeah.
Crap. Like,
yeah. So the firefighters are on the scene. They're trying to put out the fire. One of the firemen, you know, falls into the basement trap that, you know, Laurie had, you know, set ablaze to try to kill Michael. And it turns out that Michael's really, really super intelligent. And she actually had a gun rack with a, you know, sliding door, like a metal door. And that's how he survived the fire. He snuck in there and, you know, just waited it out. Which, of course, brings us into the situation. You know, there was actually this really, you know, stupid petition that was going around. I guess it was this like firefighter trainee was saying, I saw the trailers for this movie, and, you know, the scene where a bunch of firefighters who were risking their lives for nothing, you know, getting murdered is basically like really disrespectful and all this stuff. And you know what, honestly, this is something that I've never really seen mention it yet, but, you know, like, if I was a firefighter, I would hold this scene up high, because these Haddonfield firefighters knew the situation that they were in. They see this hulking monster with, you know, with a Halloween mask come out of the fire, like a phoenix from the ashes. And instead of running to the trucks, they pulled up whatever tools they have in their hands and say, we're doing this.
Yeah, they like that
super heroic
standoff, because, like, if you were a Haddonfield firefighter, you know who that is. There is no doubt in your head that you don't know who you were facing off against.
Yeah.
It is common knowledge in Haddonfield that Michael Myers is this guy. You see him walking out of a burning building like that. I mean, they knew who they were taking on, and they didn't care.
Yeah, such an awesome scene. And, you know, even though it was a bloodbath, that was one thing I wanted to say. Like, those firefighters were amazing, man. They literally held their ground against Michael Myers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it was so good. We are introduced to Tommy Doyle, now played by Anthony Michael Hall, who is basically doing, it's basically like, you know, people that were traumatized by Michael Myers through the years in Haddonfield. Also, you know, is at this bar that's actually having a Halloween party at the same time. So we're actually introduced to more of the citizens of Haddonfield. Yeah, so basically Tommy Doyle is, you know, like, just telling them the, you know, the history of Michael Myers, you know, like, this is the boogeyman, this is what he's done to us, and, you know, this and that. And, you know, eventually, you know, we'll be able to combat him. And then she ends up going to her car, the Black Doctor, and there's somebody in her car. So, you know, we're basically in a situation where the bartender's telling Tommy about this, like, you know, old baseball bat or whatever. He pulls it, you know, from the wall, and he goes out and says, you know, like, you know, we're going to stop this or whatever. The car goes careening into a street pole, and, you know, people automatically are thinking, like, oh, this is Michael Myers. Like, this is, you know, like, this is going to be the thing. You know what I mean? Like, we're all just going to hunt him down. You know, here's my question though to you. You've seen Michael Myers.
Yeah.
We've, like, Tommy saw him when he was a kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How would you think that small, frail, old psychiatric patient was Michael Myers?
I think that it's because, well, there's probably two reasons, especially for, like, Tommy to assume that it was him. is Tommy's a man now.
Mhm.
Like, he may have never seen Michael after that one incident.
Well, that's
So,
true.
you know, as a kid, your perception is a little skewed because people look way bigger than they actually are. So he may have thought that it really was Michael. And there's also the thought process of he really wanted it to be Michael because
Mhm.
he wants to save the town.
So we have our first misdirect, and you know, like even when I saw Halloween 2018, like I knew that he just made a really horrible mistake. And you know, like at his core, this kid was probably really like, you know, like really solid. Like he's a solid kid. Because Allison's boyfriend, Lonnie's son, you know, this is your first misdirect, you know, because he goes and tries to save, you know, Hawkins like immediately, you know, like trying to, you know, stop the blood loss and all of that stuff. And you're just like, yes, yes, kid, yes, I knew I liked you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And yeah, so like it was cool that we got to, you know, kind of get back on his good side a little bit. Cause I'm, you
Yeah.
know, I think people were automatically like in 2018, they're like, oh, he kissed another girl. Well, he needs to die, you know, like, but yeah, he really showed his true colors. And I love
Yep.
that. I love that. So let's talk about the flashback scene. Speaking of Hawkins, this was beautifully shot. You know, this looked like, you know, this looked like John Carpenter and Deborah Hill and Dean Cundy working on the Halloween 1978. You know, the
Yep.
the graininess of it, the costuming, it looked like a 78 film.
Mm-hmm.
It was wonderful, so well done.
Very well done.
You know, so Hawkins and you know, like he basically ends up with his partner going into the Myers house, and you know, like Hawkins makes a mistake because, you know, this is another cool thing because, you know, just like Linda or PJ Souls, you know, Michael at this point still loves strangling people. He tries to
Yep.
strangle his partner and you know, basically has him hooked up in front of him, and Hawkins, you know, makes the rash decision to pull the trigger, shoots his friend in the throat, and he ends up dying on the floor. So this young cop ends up telling Hawkins that he remembers that Michael Myers used to stare into the window when he was young, and he didn't know whether he's staring out into the world, into the town of Haddonfield, or if he was actually looking at himself. So there's definitely something to this window, I think.
I agree.
Seems like people are kind of like, I don't know, like maybe possessed by it somehow, or he was. There's something to that, you know, maybe the, you know, because it was Judith's room or whatever. I don't know. But there's definitely something to this window. I don't think you keep bringing this up within the plot line if it had nothing to do with the story.
Yeah, I agree.
So we're actually introduced to Dr. Samuel Loomis, and this
Yep.
is absolutely incredible.
They use prosthetics. I figured, like, I ended up searching that up, and they used prosthetics to make the actor look like him. Like,
yeah, it was pretty amazing. And you know, actually, you know, we should give a shout out to, you know, not only just the entire makeup department, but you know, Christopher Nelson, who you guys might remember, played the bride's well, dead new husband in Kill Bill. He's been in some stuff. He was actually the cop that was eating that horrible brownie in the car in 2018. But yeah, Christopher Nelson did the you know, did a majority of the effects for this movie. And from what I read was, you know, that this particular guy just, you know, I guess he was like some sort of like some sort of foreman or something, like a construction worker or something, and he just happened to slightly look like Donald Pleasance. So
yeah,
I guess they went through like 12 or 13 different pieces of prosthetic, and they made him Loomis. And you know, with that scene and just the way they, you know, incorporated the audio, it just like Donald Pleasance was alive again. It was really
yeah,
something else. It was unique. So Laurie is actually getting surgery in Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, which is, you know, which is interesting play, you know, because the continuity doesn't, you know, follow Halloween 2, which, you know, like this is kind of like the Halloween 2 of this, you know, particular franchise, because she is in the hospital. And as you said, you know, she's just completely like, you know, she just can't do too much. You know, she just had like open surgery,
yeah,
you know, due to stab wounds. And, you know, and like, you know, like we said, you know, like you said, I absolutely agree with you in the fact of it's hard to see her in that predicament where she can't, you know, she can only do so much. So while Laurie's in the hospital, like, and we said, we're introduced to them slightly in the bar, but we're introduced to them a lot more. But, we've got some people coming back into the fold, like Nurse, Chambers, and,
Yep.
Lindsay Wallace, and like, and eventually we see Sheriff Brackett come back.
Yep.
That's why this particular, portion of this film was so special to me, just to see
Same.
these reunions, actually, like, come into the fold again.
Yeah, seeing the scene of like whenever they're in the park and there's the kids sitting on the swings and they're just like, haha, whatever. Like, and Lindsay's like, get out, like run, like, and the kids are like, oh, we've been seeing him all night. And she's like, oh my God. Of course, you have Michael popping up by the SUV and doing the exact same thing he did to Nurse Chambers.
Yeah, you think she
the
would
same
learn.
as the beginning. Like, it was just like, I was fangirling in such a weird way that entire time because, he smacked the side window again, broke it, and like she shot it out then, like, and it's just, it was one of those things where I was just like, wow, this is such a beautiful nod to the original. And I loved it. Like, I'm sure some people want to snub their nose about it, but I mean, it made my original Halloween heart sing.
So everybody ends up, basically at Haddonfield Memorial Hospital because there is this huge mob, that Tommy is actually stirring up, this entire time. And the thing I love about this relationship between Tommy and Laurie is that even when he shows up at her bedside, she even says Tommy like she did when she was 16. Like,
Yeah.
Tommy,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
There were so many mirrored like connections to the first one that it was just like it reminded me so much of the first one, but a totally different spin on it, and it just it made my heart sing.
But what's so beautiful about it is that, like, everybody turned their back on Laurie. Like, she was just, she was a victim, and she went off the grid, and she was this crazy woman, and but gun nut and all this other stuff. But Tommy never lost hope in Laurie. Laurie saved this boy's life when he was little, and he never forgot that. And everything that she says, even to this day, as a man, is sage advice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. He truthfully like holds her up on a pedestal, as he should. I mean, Laurie is incredible. So yeah, I thought it was, I really liked that connection that they have.
And the other thing I love about this particular sequel, like we mentioned, it is, it's a bleaker Empire Strikes Back of this particular, like chapter. It is, because you got all these, different, like, just, people that were inflicted, from the same night, you know what I mean? They encountered Michael, they got hurt somehow, or, they were just lying in a morgue dead. And we saw all of that carnage that he created.
Yeah, going from house to house, like he killed the interracial couple first.
Oh, that was brutal.
No, don't do this to me. Like, oh God, that scared me half to death. Like, oh man. Oh, and it just shows you how brutal he is. Like, while the wife is sitting there dying on the ground, he's just putting more knives in his back. He's just like, this is great. Like, and you're just like, oh. So like it kind of shows you how brutal he's getting. And then like I almost like the death of the nurse and doctor couple as well was whoa. That was rough.
Well, hers was just negligence. She said, she was a thug with this gun or whatever, and she could not fire this thing, to save her life, and got too close to the door and because he kicked the door.
That was rough, because I was just like that would have been me. I mean, honestly, 100%, that would have been me. I mean, like, I get trigger safety, like I'd be way too scared to like practice that at that moment. So that would have been me. So that's how I would have died. But yeah, I mean, the deaths of them, of like those couples, were brutal.
Yeah, it was super brutal. Yeah. And people, like, that was the thing that I saw people complaining about. Like, like, oh, this isn't my Michael Myers. He's now more like Jason Voorhees now. Well, you know what? Like, first of all, he was set on fire. he's probably really, really, really pissed off at this point. And you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
This is a Michael on a level that we've never seen him. He is at the hilt of rage. If this, is the saga of the Strode women, like we're expecting, kind of like a song, it's like a ballad. There's Jamie Lee Curtis's, first half, and then this was Karen's story, I think, for the most part.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this was us getting to know Karen Strode.
Yeah.
And, seeing the just ultimate change within her, when it comes to like, just, like doing anything to protect her family and, not, having to, like hide and, like understanding that her mother was right, this whole time. But at the same time, she has an absolute heart of gold. And that comes into play when, we're introduced to this mental patient who was also in 2018, when the bus to Smith's Grove that was transferring Michael flipped over, the mental patients had actually gotten out, and this was actually one of them. And I felt so awful for this man.
I know. And I feel like that was also kind of like a nod to the original too, because they're at the beginning of the movie, they were all the mental patients.
Yeah, he let him out.
Well.
Yeah.
So that was a nice nod to the first. But yeah, like you feel so awful because like he's terrified.
Mm-hmm.
He's, he's obviously not mentally well. He's probably very confused. He probably doesn't understand anything that's happening.
He's like a little kid. Yeah.
All he knows is that these people are now after him for a reason completely unknown to him. Mm-hmm. And that like that humanity that Karen gives him, while he's like hiding around the corner, was such a beautiful and sad moment, because she was really hoping he would be okay.
Well, this is the question that I have, because, like, I know that, the film was already completed, actually, like around the time the pandemic happened, because, like, as we know, this film was, like stalled for a year, when it came to release, with the promise that it was going to come out this year, either way. But my question is, like, is there a possibility that they might have gone back and done some reshoots? Because, and I say this, only because, like, it's just something that I recognized, because there definitely was some sort of like, social political like commentary within this film. And that scene where people are literally like trying to bash their heads into the glass to get this guy, because they're smashing their, like the windows and stuff like that. That felt like the Capitol insurrection to me.
It did. Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they did. Because that mob mentality though, like that's an absolute real thing. Like when you feel like your life is on the line, but it's like hundreds of people, like absolutely that mob mentality. Mm-hmm. It's just that this mob mentality was, totally different than what I was saying earlier with like, Richard Ramirez with the Night Stalker. They had the right guy on that one.
I just don't, I don't want to get too much into politics, but I was just wondering if that was like, something like, was that, sort of like some sort of like, maybe like visual verbiage, like with the whole, Trump era and all that stuff. Cause it felt like
Perhaps.
The Capitol insurrection to me. It did.
I mean, there's a good chance that could have been, but will they probably ever say anything about it? Probably not.
Probably not. So, like, again, this is, like, this is where we, get to see Karen's like, true heart, because she does everything she can to try to protect this man. She doesn't know him at all, but she knows he's in danger. That's the only thing that she knows. Unfortunately, he jumps out the window. And this is the thing about this movie, like, you're already feeling bad for this guy. And then it's like, oh man, well, now we have to see this guy, like, basically split into 5 pieces on the sidewalk. It's like, wow.
Yeah, they did not mess around. I feel like with the amount of gore that they did, I still feel like it was an appropriate level for a slasher film. They didn't go gore fest. They didn't go gore porn with it. They kept it right at that level that it normally would be. It's just that like now our prosthetics are better. Now our like, all the things that you can get to like make these things more realistic.
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't even think it's just that. I think it's just, like I said, there's definitely some sort of there's definitely some sort of commentary within this film. And that's why I hate when people are just like, oh, like the guys that wrote this are absolute hacks and all this stuff, because it's definitely saying something. And I think,
Yeah, I agree.
even seeing a guy on the ground like that, that is supposed to show you, like, this is the repercussions of people's actions. This is what happens. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It wasn't just like, oh, look at this guy splayed, like open, like on the sidewalk. Awesome. Like it was there was something there. They were trying to show you something.
Yeah.
Like this is what the actions of humanity does.
Oh,
You make the wrong
absolutely, yeah.
decisions, and this
I
is,
can see
this is
that.
what you get. Yeah. There was something really, really intelligently being said without saying a word there. I just felt that. So let's talk about the relationship that Hawkins and Laurie Strode have. It's kind of beautiful.
Yes. Yeah. There's some love there. There's some, like, I mean, I believe that both of them.
He's the man that got away. He was the man that she could not allow herself to have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She, she would hide in her trauma, and she would drink, and she probably, like, she'd bed, like men that were horrible for her, like most trauma people, people with trauma do. And, here you've got this shining, king of a man in front of you, and you just can't see that because you don't feel like you deserve it. And I've been there too.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's beautiful.
Yeah, I think so. And but I think he also understands that. And
yeah. Oh yeah.
He loves her so much that he's okay with being on those sidelines, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
He just wants what's best for her, and you can really tell that.
Yeah, absolutely. But he's also a key component of the story, for sure. Mm-hmm. Because like as he's talking, we get in back into the flashback of 78, and we see Loomis at this point just has enough, and he's getting ready to pop Michael in the back of the head. And Hawkins, like being, I don't know, I don't want to even just say naive, like, just the good souled person that he is just like, what? Michael to me is still like a child at heart underneath the mask, like he doesn't necessarily know what he's doing, and I can't allow this to happen. So, of course, he gets incarcerated and gets, sent to Smith Grove for, decades. But, I think Hawkins' intent was good, but because of that, particular, like, that knight in shining armor thing that he was trying to do, obviously, plagued this town forever.
Yeah. Because he even says, like, I'm responsible for this. And it's like, no, you're not. Because truth be told, any other person, other than, Jason or Freddy or Chucky or all of the other slasher dudes, like, they would be fine. Like, they wouldn't have become what Michael has become.
Let's talk about Allison's motivations for a second, because honestly, I think, Allison was kind of really pissing me off this entire movie, and it really was upsetting me because I really do love that character. She was just making some really, really careless moves, and obviously in the intent of protecting her family and doing the right thing, but she just made a lot of mistakes.
She's young.
Yeah, that's true.
And I mean, that's not really an excuse, because, like, at this point you witnessed evil, and you also witnessed, like, him escaping a fire, like a house completely, you saw what your grandma put up, like,
yeah.
At that point you should be like, nah, no, I'm good here. Like,
you can't be the hero here, even though that's
Laurie, but
you can't be the hero here, even though it feels like that's kind of like maybe going to be her legacy, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, and the thing is like, the character was written to, to kind of be defiant, so it would, put her in the mix of everything. But like, that character, like, there were so many times I just wanted to, like, just shake her. Like, what are you doing? Like, well, I guess because I am an adult now, and like, I can't resonate with kids as well anymore, which is so sad. But like,
well, let me tell you something. When I interviewed her in 2018, during the Halloween premiere, I had never seen anything Andy Manichak has ever been in before that. And, like, she was making the interview rounds before I had even talked to Jamie Lee. And there was just this aura around this young woman that I just saw as a fan that, permeated, this is the next Laurie Strode. And, I'm thinking if it's, and it might be a complete and utter misdirect, but I think that's the route we're going. I think this is going to be passing the torch to Allison. We find out that, like, just like Laurie Strode is, like, Michael Myers' home is also kind of like a, on the GPS map of Michael's heart. And he's going straight back home. And we're introduced to Big John and Little John. And listen, I have to tell you that, this is one of those things that I heard a lot of people complaining about, was these two characters because of their names. I guess that was, kind of, hacky to them that they call themselves Big John and Little John. But I will say this also. Non-stereotypical gay couple that were just two men in love with each other. There was nothing stereotypical, like I said before, about them. You know what I mean? They were just like, they were beautifully written, I thought.
I honestly, I hate the fact that people are like, oh, it's hacky that they call themselves like Big John and Little John. Listen, I challenge any couple out there to tell me that they don't have ridiculous nicknames for each other. Like, honestly, come on. You're lying to yourself whenever you get like, whenever you're like, oh, that's so hacky. Well, then tell me your nicknames and your relationships. Okay. Tell me.
So Lonnie and Allison and her boyfriend are outside of this house. And, like, there is this really brutal confrontation that happens with Big John and Little John, which we expected.
Yeah.
Really brutal, really brutal.
Yeah. Michael was not holding back on anybody.
But again, he's gravitating towards that room and that window again. You know what I mean? Like, so there again, this is foreshadowing somehow. This window is important.
Yep.
It is important. So Lonnie, tells the kids that he's going to go in first. And, if they hear a noise or something, beep the horn or whatever. And they both end up in the house. And this is the other weird thing about it, because I know, he's done it with Annie and, Judith's, tombstone and all that stuff. He's, he kind of likes art installations a little bit, but he's very respectively,
to set the mood, apparently.
Yeah. He very respectively lays Big John and Little John, to, like, kind of in a loving pose that was very similar to the photograph that was on their table.
Yeah. I honestly, like, that was a moment where I was like, as weird as it is, like, now I see that, like, he has just still like a teensy, like, little
bit of compassion, a little bit,
humanity in there.
Of course, Lonnie's son goes to, find his father because, like, he's not coming back out, and Allison follows her boyfriend. And I don't know really exactly what he's doing because it's so dark, but it looks like he's taking his head and he's pulling it into the banisters.
Yeah.
Like, I guess there was a piece up top that broke off. And there's a piece on the bottom. And I guess he was trying to decapitate him. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's
before
what I was
Allison pulls the trigger. I mean, this is probably one of the most brutal kills in this movie. Because his neck is just getting snapped and, busted to and fro.
Definitely top 5.
It's crazy. Oh.
Definitely top 5. After the daughter's leg is broke and she's sitting there and, Karen comes out and she's like, you want your mask? Come get it. And just takes off running down this alleyway with the mask in tote, and Michael following behind her because she's like, I got to get him to a certain spot, because in the beginning, like, they had already said,
and that's where all the floodlights come, kick on, and the mob is there. Well, and Karen says the line again. She says,
of the movie, they said, Tommy was like, we have to play by his rules. We have to sneak attack him. And that's exactly what they did. And that's whenever she leaves the mask, she's gone. Michael's like, oh, my mask. Okay. Puts it on. And the floodlights come on, and everybody is weapons ready to just go at him. Like, it was just one of those power moves where I was like, oh, it's happening. Like, I was just so excited.
But she also drops the line that she dropped when she was like, please, 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 I can't do this. I can't do this. And then she pulls up the rifle and shoots him in the eye. Gotcha.
Yep.
Awesome. So this town goes ham on Michael, and, that's when Judy Greer runs up to him and sticks his butcher knife in the back of his neck. And, everybody's just like, well, all's well that ends well. And then they all turn around. And that's when we see Michael just, slowly get up. And we get this montage of just viscera, because he just laces into this town. Blood spraying everywhere. He gets Tommy, starts, stabbing Tommy to death. This is wild, man. This is when we see him as the shape, as the supernatural force.
Mhm.
You know, and I think maybe this is the other thing that kind of ticked people off. But I love this because, you know, like I am a fan of 4 and 5. I love the Mark of Thorn storyline. I love all that stuff. And
Yep.
if this is what it is, like this is the unstoppable, like, you know, inhuman that he's become,
Yeah.
totally into it. Totally into it.
Yep. And it like a part of me was like, I want to see him die, but a bigger part of me was like, don't take him away from me. I'm not ready for it. Because
No.
like, again, as weird as it is,
Mhm.
he's like my comfort character, which doesn't
Mhm.
make any sense. It makes me sound like a psycho.
No,
but
not at all.
he's one of my comfort character. I know he's one of my comfort characters. So like at the same time, like the day that Michael, like that the series is done, I'm gonna bawl my eyes out because like even though I can go back and rewatch all the other ones, it still is gonna be like watching a piece of my childhood that was such a big chunk that helped me get through the worst of times.
Yeah.
And still helps me to this day. And it's like, man, I'm not ready for this to go. So like whenever he got back up, I was like, oh, thank God. Oh God, wait.
Yeah. Well, you know, let's get to this really shocking ending because this ending is absolutely shocking. Because it's so last minute and so instantaneous. And you know what? Might even itself, you know, be, you know, like a red herring and not actually a real thing. I would say it probably is, but it seems like Karen is actually compelled somehow to go up the stairs of the Myers house into the room, which is, you know, like holding the window that we were talking about in, you know, in past, you know, like description. And she's just like staring out of it, looking at herself or looking out into the town or whatever. And that's when Michael comes up from behind her and just brutally murders her, like in this room. Karen is supposedly killed. And that's when we see the credits kick in. Halloween ends, and that's the end of the movie, or end of this, you know, particular installment anyway.
All right, guys. So that is our show. If you guys have not seen Halloween Ends, please, you know, if you're a Peacock subscriber, you can get out to the theater, which is the best way to do it. Please go see Halloween Kills. It's definitely worth it. And if you don't like it, I'll kill you. It's just, you know, it's that simple. Thank you, Laurie, for the drum roll. Thank you for your continued love and support. Thank you for, you know, helping us with our algorithm and, you know, the thousands of views when it comes to the shows and the subscriptions. And, you know, really do appreciate you. You mean so much to us. And yeah, so join us next week when Halloween comes to an end. And we're going to be talking about the 40th anniversary of the Sam Raimi classic, Evil Dead. So we'll scale later. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.